Have you ever wondered if it's possible, as the busy person you are, to learn how to speak English at an advanced level when you actually need to dedicate so much of your free time to work, family, and all of your other responsibilities in life? So for today's lesson, Ksenia and I spoke with real people who have a lot going on in their lives, but somehow they found a way to actually develop their fluency in English.
And she's also come this way from being a learner to teaching English, actually.
Now, we noticed that there were 5 things that these busy but successful people share. 5 practices that they have in common that if you implement these yourself, you're gonna have tremendous progress in very little time. And let me tell you that the best way for you to experience this lesson that's about to start is on the RealLife app, where we give you a full interactive transcript of the lesson so you never get lost, beautiful, high quality video, and a deck of flashcards covering the most advanced words and expressions that we use in today's lesson so you can practice and expand your vocabulary. It's a really complete experience. Just search for RealLife English on Google Play or the App Store, or click the link in the description below, and let's have fun. Ah, yeah. Have with me here today Ksenia, the one and only Ksenia. How's it going?
Hello, Izzy. Hello, dear viewers. I've been so busy, but I've made sure that I carve out some time to meet you and record this podcast and to connect with you and with our dear viewers today. How about you?
I'm doing great. And today I'm really excited because we're talking about something that I actually love, which is addressing the issue of busyness, being busy. So this is something that I think these days most people feel, most adults feel, and it just so happens that most of our learners are adults. And we shouldn't talk about learning English as something that you can simply sit down and study for hours. It's not that simple. So today we're going to talk all about how busy learners become fluent in English while balancing work and family. But before we get started, let me just say this to our viewers and listeners that every week we make lessons just like this one with real life stories and examples to help you speak English naturally. And we want to tell you exactly how thousands of our students did this, how they achieved this advanced level, and how we did it too, how Ksenia and I did it. So if that's something that you want, hit the subscribe button and the bell down below so you don't miss any of our new lessons. Now, Ksenia, I want to jump into this immediately because you and I, we interviewed some of our students last week to talk about this and to figure out what are these common practices that all successful learners who are busy, how they actually achieve this advanced level. This first one is with the amazing Nira. She actually works at RealLife English, but she came from our community and you work side by side with her, Ksenia. So what would you say about Nira?
Oh, Nira is just like, a concentration of energy, I would say. She's so energetic, and it's no surprise that she's so busy. I think she leads a very active life. It's just like because of her character, because of her mindset. She can't be just goofing around. She's always busy.
Yeah, she's a very busy mom and professional and everything. So somehow, some way, she did it as an adult. Somewhat recently, she became a fluent English speaker. So in this first exercise that we're going to learn, you'll see her speaking about how to make English a part of your day. That is the very first thing you need to think about. So let's watch that clip.
I was always struggling with learning English. It was always a tough task for me because I didn't know, now it's obvious, but I didn't know at the time how to make it an everyday practice. And this is the crucial point, right? I used to have like 2 hours a week, 2 classes a week, or 2 hours on weekend to study. But of course, this is not enough. So I was always with that sense that, wow, this is something for future, someday, because it was never happening at the time that I was studying. Like I didn't feel like I was improving. But when I met RealLife and I joined RealLife English, it changed it completely, because the crucial lesson that I learned is that I knew that I had to make it part of my daily life.
Awesome. Awesome. She said like someday, I'll be speaking English. It reminded me of that saying that Ethan likes to repeat, that there are 7 days in a week and some days not one of them.
Yeah. And this also reminds me of something else that I was talking about with Ethan the other day too, that you're going to live your English now while you learn it and learn from your mistakes and keep growing that way. That is the actual way that not just successful learners actually do, but I think people in general, like kids, when they learn their native language, that's how we all do it. So it's, to me, it's just sort of amazing that with the real life way, our method for learning English, we captured exactly that. And this is also what's fascinating to me, that when we created the real life way, our method for learning English, we modeled it after people, after successful learners. We looked at our team, which is full of people who learned English as adults or developed their fluency as adults. We looked at our students, we looked at ourselves, and we found these common patterns, these common practices that we all did to get to our level. So this is really amazing. Like, this really is the mark of a successful learner. Is like we make English a part of our day. And when you talk about living your English, there's some concrete examples, some actual things that anyone can do. And we spoke with Shirley, who is another friend of ours, who also did it. She became fluent as an adult. And we have a clip where she talks a little bit about her actual practices, what she did to live her English.
Let's watch it. I love talking to Shirley. She's like a sunshine from Brazil, again, full of energy and so warm.
I make sure to be surrounded by English. For example, I love podcasts. So I listen to podcasts in English, and I love reading. I read in English. I make sure to get books in English. Write the same. Even my to-do list, my shopping list, my notes, my personal notes, my journal is in English. So immersion is the key.
Yeah. This is it. Like, because if you don't have time, if you're saying like, I wake up in the morning, I go to work, I come back, I have to take care of my kids or do this other thing, and you just feel like you don't have time, well, maybe the things that you are already doing, if you just do those things in English, that'll take care of it, right? So that's just what she was talking about there. And it's not like fake immersion. It's not like you're going to create an experience where you're going to just immerse yourself in that experience necessarily. You can do that, and that can be incredibly powerful with lessons and podcasts. But if you already do that with your own life, if you immerse yourself in your own life in English, that takes care of it too, right?
Exactly. I'm not sure if that's the example to this pattern exactly, but for example, talking from personal experience, every time I go to Google or now ChatGPT to search for something, I never use Ukrainian. I would always write my question in English, right? So, and it's already so deeply ingrained in me, it's counterintuitive to start writing something or searching for something in Ukrainian. I would always ask Google in English.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like the way we use our devices in English. That is another way that I can easily already live my English in that reality, especially for me because I work on my computer. So I would be dealing with English all the time. Like if I didn't, that would be a missed opportunity. So that's another recommendation. And I think Saori, who is another person that we spoke with, that's what she talked about. Let's hear her talking about this.
I set English for all my devices. So not only for this phone, laptop, iPad, everything.
She was like, I was talking to her, right? And she would even say later that she made her kids do the same. So her kids also have their phones and laptops set in English. And it's the same for me. Like, and it's even funny when I go to my friend's place and when I, use their computer, I feel lost because I don't understand the Ukrainian, all the names of those folders and everything, because I have my devices in English too.
Yeah, I think I feel the same. Anyway, so this is the foundation, I would say. So we're talking about 5 exercises and we spent a lot of time on this one, but it's really because it's the foundation for all people who as an adult, they achieve it. So now let's take a look at the second thing that you should pay attention to, the second practice. And this is to adapt your immersion in English to your routine. Let's check out Nira talking about it.
There's always a way to adapt. Doesn't matter the condition, the situation we're living, right? If you really want to prioritize, but this is something, if you really want to prioritize, we can find a way. And for me, like I told you, it didn't matter if you would set aside like just five minutes in the morning, plus 10 minutes in the afternoon, plus 20 minutes in the evening. But the point is that by the end of the week, I would have practiced a lot, summing up, you know, all the time that I spent.
That's awesome. So this idea of adapting your day, adapting your routine reminds me also of this, you know, habit stacking from that book we all love to quote here, Atomic Habits, right? Is that when you are a busy person and it's really challenging for you to squeeze in that learning session into your day, just find things where you can combine two things together. For example, I have a student and she says that because I know that her schedule is jam-packed, and because of this podcast, last week I asked her, hey, Tanya, how do you cope with the pace? How do you always show up for the lesson prepared? When do you find time for your English lessons? And she said, you know, I have a gym membership, so she does this CrossFit. And she says that I start my day with that, listening to an English lesson. Then I come back home, and during some pauses during the day, I review the vocabulary with the flashcards from that lesson. And in the evening, I do the writing exercise, you know. So she breaks it down into 3 sessions, like 5-10 minutes, right? And that's how she does it. It's just like adapting to your routine. So you already have some habits, some strong habits. Just add your English where it's possible. Like, for example, I would also listen to audiobooks while on commute. Yeah, so I had no other time for reading.
So what is that, to commute? That word you just used?
Oh, yeah, it's just like it's the way from your home to your place of work, or in my case, it was our school. So commute is the road you take from home to somewhere, usually your work.
So yeah, I think finding opportunities. This is all about finding those opportunities. And I think each person has a different lifestyle, or our lives are set in different ways. So there's no one size fits all here. There's no formula. You know, you should really take a hard look at your life and be like, what is the actual opportunity that I can take advantage here of? And maybe it's a meal, you know, maybe we're talking about doing chores, cleaning the house, commuting, as you said. There's always time. And something that I also noticed that people who are successful do is they choose wisely how they spend time, because a lot of times those same moments are the time when people are on social media, for example. They're spending time on social media. So you can choose, like, are you going to be on social media, or are you going to do something that's entertaining but also productive for you?
But talking about social media, do you remember what 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗟𝗶 also said? Like, she said, okay, I was searching for the ways how to how to apply my knowledge, how to use my English. So she would go on Instagram, and she said at the very beginning of her journey, she would just post short comments under the feeds that she liked, something that she was interested in, right? And she said that that's how I started using my English. I started with just making short posts on Instagram, under the reels, under the videos.
There you go. Yeah, if you're living your English through social media, it's perfect. It's actually quite a smart idea, because it's pretty addictive anyway, right? So you're going to go back.
Exactly. Adapting, you know, if she still spends time on Instagram, if she still enjoys that, why not following? That's what I do, actually. 70% of all my feed on Instagram is in English. Why? Because I subscribe to content which is in English. That's why I also, when I'm scrolling into Instagram, like, most of it is in English.
Yeah, and a lot of these practices that we try and implement in our days, I think we can make a lot of them like non-negotiables. We can turn them into habits that we don't really negotiate whether or not we'll do it. We'll be like, no, maybe I won't do this today. You don't really give it a thought. You just go and do it right?
I think we have a clip about that as well. Shirley was talking about it, right?
Yeah. And I use this expression, non-negotiable. And as I just explained it, it's something that you don't negotiate. In this case, it's figurative, like you're negotiating with yourself. So that's what it means. So let's check it out. This is Shirley talking about her habit of practicing with flashcards and how she's turned that into a non-negotiable for herself.
I love flashcards, you know. I believe that it's a life change in learning a language specifically. And I've been doing that until now. So I've been doing flashcards for the last 8 years. And it's really awesome because it helps us to recall words, learn new words. That's awesome. And it doesn't take a lot of time. I make sure to do that during the day. I have to do that. It's like non-negotiable, you know?
Has it ever happened to you that you go to bed and you remember, oh my God, today I haven't reviewed the flashcards. Do you do this the last thing before going to bed?
Yes.
Yeah. You know what it also reminds me? Remember that story Justin would tell us about the times where he was running professionally? He said something like, on those really busy days, by the end of the day, if I realized that, you know, so I couldn't find time for running, that's what I did in the evening. Yeah, I would just go and ride and run during the night because this is something I had to tick off. Right? I ran today because it was a daily thing for him.
That's the mark of the winner, right? And when we say this expression, like the mark of somebody, we're talking about those common practices. So you mentioned Atomic Habits. The author, James Clear, he also has a newsletter. And I read this article from one of his newsletters that he shared this really interesting quote. Reduce the scope, stick to the schedule.
Could you explain what it means? Reduce the scope. So first of all, scope is the amount of something. Reducing is decreasing it, making it less. Reduce the scope, stick to the what? How did it
Schedule.
go? To the schedule. Stick to the schedule. Well, that's easy to understand. But could you explain the overall thing?
Reduce the scope, stick to the schedule is a strategy that you can implement for when the situation gets hard, you know, when it's evening, it's nighttime, and you haven't done the thing that you know you're supposed to do. Don't worry about it. Just reduce the scope and stick to the schedule. Why? Because that will just reinforce the idea that you have about yourself, that you're the kind of person who does that every day. And that's pretty powerful. It's actually in behavioral psychology, that is one of the foundations for creating a new habit. It's just doing it regardless of even how much time you spend. Like, you don't need to worry about spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Like, if you just do it for 5 minutes, that is already, for you, that's like, yes, I did it. And it confirms that you are the type of person who does that every day. So if you recognize that in your future, you want to be that person who speaks English fluently, naturally, confidently, you have to align your practices. You have to align your habits today if you want to get there. So your trajectory, you know, like your course is actually leading you there. Otherwise, it'll not magically happen, right? But it doesn't need to be something that you are just sacrificing everything else for it. That's why we're talking about how to manage your life in a way that you can still go to work, you can study, you can take care of things at home, family, but still learn. And maybe you can even go to a party, but maybe on your way there, you're listening to a podcast, you know?
Adapting, right?
So let's move on to practice number 4, where Nira, again, is going to talk about podcast obsession and how she used an armband, something that you put on your arm that you can stick your phone to it, how she used that object to really obsess with the podcast, our podcast, actually.
Runners usually use this armband, right? Like, so you can run and listen to the podcast as well.
So this is something that I kept doing. I practiced with the same lesson for 1 week, the same. And also I leveraged all the time all the opportunity that I had during the day. For example, during lunchtime, when I was running some errands, or when I was going to the park on weekends, I was always with armband. Yeah, armband that you put the cell phone. I was always wearing that because even when I was washing the bathroom, doing the cleaning, when I was doing the cleaning, I was with my earphones listening to the same podcast. I kind of obsessed. And some people could even say, oh, but don't you find it boring, like to listen to the same again and again? For me, I had in mind, the more I listen, the more I will sharpen my ears.
Nice. Sharpen her ears. Interesting. What is she talking about there?
Like training your ears, attuning your ears to the sounds of English too. And I know it from my own experience. The more you listen, the more you catch, especially when you are not that advanced in English, right? So listening to it the first time, most probably you'll miss some things. But the more you listen, the more you pick up, and your ear becomes like just trained. About these moments of obsession, it reminds me of my university days. So I really, really enjoyed our classes of phonetics, where we learned the rhythm of English, the intonation, all those patterns. And we had a task. So we would get a text and an audio, and we had to reproduce it just like, exactly how it was said. With ups and downs in your tone, with pauses, intervals, like reproducing the whole thing.
Just mimicking.
Mimicking, right? Exactly. That's what we call mimicking, right? And maybe that would be enough just to spend, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes on it, like repeating 5-7 times. No, I would like really obsess over it. I would spend around 2 hours because I was really, really mastering it. I really wanted to sound exactly like the person on the audio. And one of the most vivid memories was this Martin Luther King speech, "I have a dream." So we had to reproduce it exactly how he was saying it. And I really enjoyed it. This is something like that was my thing, I liked it. And it helped a lot. I think I picked up my accent and English rhythm exactly thanks to that exercise.
Yeah, there's something about obsession that I'd like to share about my own journey. But before I do, let me just ask you, Nira used a very interesting word when she was talking about her experience in learning. She used the verb to leverage, that she would leverage different opportunities. I think that's what she said. So what does that mean?
That's a nice word. Actually, it may be used as a noun, at leverage, or to leverage, right? Is to use something as a tool to help you achieve something else, right? So you can leverage your position or your status to, I don't know, buy some tickets, which are easy to get, or you can use a leverage to open up a can that you can't open, right? Like, or the doors. So actually, this is like a tool that helps you do something.
About obsession, that something that I think is really important that Nira is talking about here is obsessing over one specific show or movie or just piece of content that you can consume once, twice, as many times as you can, because then you're going to start to notice different things and also to be able to internalize the vocabulary used in it. So a lot of times we just like to move on to the next thing and the next thing, but there's great value in repeating and obsessing over the same thing. I did that a lot. I know that there is 4 or 5 different TV series that I've watched all the seasons so many times. Like Friends, I've lost count. Maybe, I don't know, 7 times, 8 times. How I Met Your Mother, at least 3 times, probably 4. So all these different series. My method would be, watch one episode, and if needed, I would watch it again just so I could understand it. So for me, I was having fun, but I was obsessing over everything. The vocabulary, the sounds. You talked about mimicking, so do that too. I'd pause and mimic. So this can be fun, but you have to remember that you are doing that for learning purposes. So take advantage of it too. Leverage it, right? And what's really fascinating to me, and I'm not going to say this because I work here at Real Life English and I love our app. It's not that. I mean it. Our app has everything that I would do when I was learning, and that pretty much Nira is talking about here too, because we offer our podcast lessons there. If you're not in the app right now, you should, because we give you exactly that. There are flashcards, which Shirley mentioned as well. So you can learn with our lessons in a way that's much more efficient and smart than if you're simply on YouTube. And so there's vocabulary practice, and you can actually speak with other learners too to practice your English, which that's going to help you activate your vocabulary and just develop your fluency. So it's a really complete experience that you get with it. So I thought this would be an opportune moment to share the message from our learner of the week.
Yeah, so we got this message from 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗟𝗶𝗳𝗏, and they write, for people who want to improve their English, this app is the best. I have used a lot of apps, but I deleted all of them and kept this one. You can improve your listening skills, learn new vocabulary, and improve your pronunciation. There is also a script that helps you read, and you can talk to other learners for free. In short, everything you need to improve your English is in this one app. Thank you, RealLife team.
This is literally what I said. I know it'll sound like I prepared that. I didn't, but it was exactly what I said here, you know? Because again, it was my experience. So you can see there's a trend, there's a pattern. It's repeating among all these successful learners. Like, we do the same things. If you're not doing these things, well, hop on board the train of fluency, because these are the things that actually work. If your goal is to be able to speak English as naturally as 𝗥𝗍𝗍 and I do, let me tell you that this is exactly what we want to help you achieve. And the place where you can get the best guidance from us is on the RealLife app. It's where we will guide you to understand 100% of what fast speakers say, and where we'll help you develop your communication skills so you can express yourself clearly without translating in your head, without any effort in any situation. So you've been seeing these little cards show up at the top of your screen, right? These are advanced words and expressions that we are using on this podcast. Now, if you watch this lesson on the RealLife app, you'll be getting these automatically saved so you can review, learn, and internalize them later. And you get to do this in a really fun, natural, and convenient way with these lessons. So if that sounds interesting to you, you should check out the RealLife app right now. Just search for RealLife English on Google Play or the App Store, or just click the link in the description below wherever you are listening or watching this. So download it, unlock your first lesson for free, and I'll see you there. Let's do it. So let's talk about the final practice here. Practice number 5. So we're going to listen to Nira one more time talking about connecting with why you're learning English.
I've always loved making friends. This is part of who I am, to have new connections, because when you interact with new people, you have new ideas, and you can take different actions. And this was my genuine motivation, because I've always loved making friends, and English was a tool for it, because I could see a world beyond borders. And by the time I started learning with RealLife English with the lesson, so I used to spend 10 minutes interacting with the Fluency Circle, right? So okay, I'm now interacting. At the beginning, the interaction was low, because I was still not confident yet. I was afraid of making mistakes and this kind of things. But with time, and I remember that the first audio message that I sent to the group, I used to rehearse a lot. But after some time, I just put the fear out of the table. Okay, I will not rehearse anymore, because making mistakes, and I know that it's part of the learning process, and that's okay. Because sometimes we have that. I had that misconception. I will talk to someone when my English is perfect. But no, I just needed to communicate. If we can understand each other, right? When we establish a communication, and we can exchange ideas and experiences. So this is the fluency that I wanted to have. And so I started getting fascinated. I knew that I was in the right place. So now I could see every day my improvement.
Amazing,
So
amazing. Yeah. And in this clip, this short clip, she managed to use so many great expressions, right? Like this word misconception, right? It's just like a false belief. Then she was talking about putting fear off the table, missing, like ignoring it, like dismissing your fear and not paying attention to it anymore.
And Nira is actually somebody who fascinates me because she really is this concentration of energy, and somehow, some way, she was able to apply the entire real life way on her own. She's incredible to me. Here she's connecting to her why. She loves making friends, making new friends. And she found in the Fluency Circle, which is our community of learners, she found an opportunity there to make new friends, which for her motivated her to keep growing and keep learning. So she would spend time developing her fluency with the podcast lessons and using flashcards. She told me in the conversation that we had that just like Shirley, in the evening she'd practice with flashcards. Same thing. I didn't include this here in the clip because it would be too much, but she did that too. But she was doing those things so she would have the skills to communicate, just to communicate, even if she made mistakes.
And she's also come this way from being a learner to teaching English, actually. She is a teacher of English as well. That is fascinating as well.
All right, Ksenia. So this is all the 5 exercises that we have for today. So let's summarize those again. What are them?
So what we've noticed, what successful and busy English learners do are these 5 practices. So the first one, making English a part of your day. The second one is adapting your English and immersing it into your routine. The third is turning some activities into non-negotiable habits. The fourth is obsessing over one thing in English. And finally, the 5th one is connecting with your why you're learning English.
Something else that I didn't talk about is that you can have a different why. Like Nira's why is to make new friends. That's not everybody's why. So for example, if you're into writing, if you see yourself as a writer, you write blog articles or novels, if you like reading a lot too, maybe you should do more of that in English and just connect with that. Practice more writing in English, not just in your own native language. If you like video games, and you play a lot of online video games, well, do that in English too. Reach out to people who speak English. Don't just play with your native friends, and you're going to be using your English to achieve your goals, within your purpose.
Yeah, and that's really important. Like, always experiment what works for you, right? As you said earlier, there is no one size fits all. There is always this experimentation, trying different things and learning what works best for you. That's, I think, one of the most important things as well, right?
Yeah, I use that expression here today, one size fits all, and we didn't explain what that means. But you know what, listener, viewer, if you want to learn with this lesson and take advantage of all this advanced vocabulary that we use to expand your own active vocabulary so you can speak more naturally and really be able to express your own ideas, your own thoughts in English, just like us. Again, we're not native speakers of English, Ksenia and I, so you can learn with us and all these other successful learners too, and increase your vocabulary with the RealLife app. So again, we're leaving the link in the description, but you can also search for the app on your favorite app store, Google Play, the Apple App Store. Search for RealLife English and download it now, and we'll see you there. So Ksenia, it was a pleasure doing this episode with you, and last week we worked on preparing this, talking to learners, even reflecting ourselves, like, have we done these things too, and yeah, we have. So this is awesome. I love it. And before we leave, let's just say to our listeners and viewers how they can support us.
So yeah, the easiest way to support us, guys, is to leave us a 5-star review and leave us a comment on whichever platform you're using for listening to our podcast. And if you are there over our YouTube channel, please also use the comment section, subscribe, and hit that bell down below to never miss a single new lesson.
Yeah. And as we always say on this podcast, no matter what divides us, that which unites us is far greater. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Sure that you have felt frustrated when people can't understand you because you are pronouncing things wrong in English. They might think that you were having a nice cold beer in the woods, but actually you were terrified because you ran into a bear.
Yeah, can't believe my luck.
Well, in today's episode, Ksenia and I discuss how to easily pronounce the most difficult sounds in English so that you are never misunderstood again.
You don't want to be thinking, when you are thinking.
By the way, to get the best possible experience with today's lesson, you should definitely be watching it on the Real Life English app because you can follow along with a digital transcript so you understand.